The nights are getting long, Halloween is in the air, and we have this gas stove which is made up to look like a real fireplace. So, I thought create some ambience for now, see how it goes. I'm Seb, by the way, and I've gone mad with power lately because I have joined not one, not two, but three new libraries. There you can see the cards more or less. So what happened was, after we moved here, I went to, there's this big library called Semiamu Library, and they gave me this card. And then it turned out that there was a closer one which had a different kind of system, and they're not linked together. So if I wanted to get books from the closer one, I'd have to take out an account there. That's called White Rock Library, which is like kind of weird that they're right next to each other, and they both have like this big linked network of lots of libraries where you can take out one book in one place and return it to another, but they're not connected to each other. But anyway, and then finally Vancouver City Library, and this is the one I got most recently, my third library card, because Vancouver is obviously the big city, and it's got things that you don't find in other places. So I've already done a video showing the treasures that I got from those first two libraries, and now this one is just for what I got at the Vancouver City Library more recently, after I made that card. So Vancouver, the public library, the central public library in Vancouver City is amazing. It looks like this sort of cross-section of the Roman Colosseum or something. Architecturally, the nicest thing I've seen since coming to Canada, and it's like a gorgeous building, and on the inside, you have a wide selection of books, and then there's the second and the third floor, and they seem to kind of progressively get more boring as I went up there, so I kind of didn't venture going up all the floors the first time. But after searching on the library system, I eventually for what book was it? The Silent Scream by Kenzaburo Oe, which I hadn't finished when I was still in Dublin. So I wanted to pick that up, and they didn't have it in Surrey Library. That is, see, it gets confusing. White Rock Library is part of the Fraser Valley Library Network, so it's also called that, and it says that on the card. And then Semiamu Library is part of the Surrey Library Network, so it says Surrey Library on the card. So lots of names, trying to figure it all out. But anyway, I couldn't find the book I wanted in either of these two, so I signed up for the third one, where I saw they had it on the 6th floor, and the 6th floor is where the magic happens, because I was looking for the Japanese translated literature section, and before I did that, I came across a whole treasure trove of other books which kind of distracted me and made me pick them up before I found what I was eventually looking for. First of all, the Latin American books. I found this book of poems by Mario Benedetti, and I've read a lot of short stories by him so far, which I had to leave my short story collection book in Dublin, and that book is kind of as a present, and it's I really like it. It's kind of precious to me, and I hadn't finished all the short stories in it, but it didn't make the cut for what I brought here. If you want to see what did make the cut, then I have another video on that as well. But yeah, this was poems, and I've never read any poems by Benedetti. He's like the main Uruguayan, the most famous Uruguayan writer, I guess. And I really like his short stories, and this is a dual language, so it has English and Spanish. And I've been thinking I wanna get back into Spanish. My partner is learning Spanish, and my Spanish is awful, so that's one thing I want to do while I'm here, I guess. So there's that. Then there's Cesar Vallejo, Peru's #1 poet, one of Peru's main writers. Is not current anymore. I presume he's dead. But I memorized some of these poems before, or at least one of them, and because this is his most famous book, The Black Heralds, and I impressed my grandmother once with one of the poems, and she was a very hard woman to impress. So it's got nice memories for me, and again it's got the dual language, Spanish and English, so I can use it to practice, and also maybe see if I can memorize some poems as well. I think that's kind of good for your brain, isn't it? Memorizing stuff. But look at that cover as well. It looks really good, I think. Okay, I don't want to lean forward too much because that was really warm. This is actually very efficient. But back here it's cool and nice. Then I found this, Mario Vargas Llosa, what's it called? Who Killed Palomino Molero? And Mario Vargas Llosa is one of those writers who I've always meant to get to. There he is there, beautiful, big, smiling, toothy grin. He is the only Nobel Prize winner from Peru, and I never knew where to begin with him. Like his most famous book, which was there, La Ciudad de los Perros, which has a totally different name in English, which I don't remember. But yeah, that's about like people, like soldiers in like military school, and it sounds like, I don't know, kind of iffy. Like I'm not sure I would enjoy reading about soldiers, and like if I don't know if I like him as a writer yet. And then there's another book of his which called, what was it called? The Greenhouse, which is about a brothel, and that sounds far more like my cup of tea, to be honest. But like kind of like a community, like, and has how it builds up in the brothel, and it's like a microcosm of society in Peru and blah blah blah. Sounds great. But what really caught my eye was not this book, but another book I found on the internet ages ago, which is sort of a detective novel about like in the Andes. It's called Death in the Andes, and like I think there's been a murder, and a lot of like native Andean people are saying that it's a folkloric monster called a pistaco, which is a kind of like Peruvian vampire, only they drink fat, human fat, instead of blood. Charming. But yeah, I really wanted to read that because I like the idea of like kind of detective and folklore and Andes, and I don't know, and also he's, you know, kind of big writer and stuff, and it sounded fun. But then I found out it's a sequel, and this is the first one, and I've never seen the first one ever before. So I thought I read the first one and then I can read the sequel. I have no idea what this is about, except it's, you know, it looks like a kind of a, you know, sort of pulpy detective novel, and it's written by this big high up literary guy. So that combination is also sort of attractive, but excited for that one. Then I saw, like, I'd just seen the Spanish, like kind of the Latin American section, and I was like, okay, I've been really distracted. I have to just skip through all this and get to the Japanese translation so I can finally find The Silent Scream. So I turned, and right in front of me on the shelf, like eye level, was this big chunk of Ovid, you know, like Ovidius Publius, like my guy, my Roman. So I was like, I have to go through these now. And I did, and there was one that really caught my eye called Ovid and Augustus, and in the end I thought, no, I can't do this, I can't get distracted, and I left it alone. And then like after that I left the library and I just felt something was missing from the books I'd taken, and that book title just kept going back in my head. If you want to know why I'm really interested in the relationship between the Roman emperor and the famous poet that he exiled, then I have a video on that too. The characterization of the two people in Ovid's poem are really good, but obviously it's really biased and it's from his point of view, and he's trying to fictionalize both his own suffering and the emperor's aggression and his sort of punitive measure in a way, in this very specific way for a specific end. So I thought I'd like to read something more, biographical. And so yeah, I went back, and as soon as I could, I went straight back to the library and I got this book out, Ovid and Augustus. There you go. The cover is not really very nice, and then the back is just exactly the same, which I find kind of weird, like they just ran out of ideas or something. This like kind of like wall print style image. But anyway, I'm really excited. It feels great to just have this, even though the subtitle is a political reading of Ovid's erotic poems. And like, I haven't read Ovid's erotic poems, and I'm not so interested in like a reading of the poem so much as like, who's Ovid and who's Augustus and what are they like, and that kind of like a biography, you know? But yeah, this still sounds interesting, and I might give it a read. I will give it a read. I'm not sure if I'll read all of it, but to help me with that, I also took out, you can't read the title there, but it is because of the stupidly placed label, but it is The Art of Love. Maybe you can read the spine. The Art of Love by Ovid, and this is the book that got him exiled. This is apparently very immoral by Augustus's standards, and like Ovid regretted having written it, but did he really regret having written it? Because anyway, I'm going to try reading it. I'm a little bit apprehensive about it. It's a translator I haven't tried yet, and it's done in rhyme, which makes me like kind of worried, because like all the Ovid poetry I've read so far that I've enjoyed has not been in rhyme, and the reasons that I read the preface, and the reasons that the the translator gives in the preface for putting it in rhyme are just that he wants to sound kind of witty, like kind of smart and clever, because Ovid was smart and clever, but obviously Ovid wasn't smart and clever using rhyme. So I don't know, I find that kind of weird, but like, we'll see. Maybe I won't like it, maybe I'll get a different translation, we'll see. And then when I went around the corner from the Romans to the Greeks, I found the gorgeously bound Alcestis by Euripides, and here translated and adapted by Ted Hughes, it says. So like, can you see the flowers though? They look great, right? Like, and like Greek tragedies are like so inaccessible, I think, often. Like they seem like, you know, high school things you have to study or university things you have to like major in. This is just a really pretty book, and like, why don't they do that for like all the, you know, Greek tragedies? Like I've seen, you know, usually when they like kind of make new editions and stuff, they still look kind of, I don't know, not very inviting. Like Alcestis, just look at it looks great. And also it's a veil. Like if you look, I love covers like this. This is like my favorite cover in ages. Like it's a black veil. If you look at the bottom, it's like kind of frayed or like got those little bits of thread sticking out. So and the story, Alcestis, the story is about a man, Admetus, who like kind of does a bargain that he doesn't have to die if he can like get someone who's willing to change places with him. So as long as he can find somebody who will take his place and go to the underworld instead of him, then he can escape death. And he thinks this is a great thing until he finds out nobody wants to do it except his wife, Alcestis, and so she journeys to the underworld. I love Euripides. He's one of my favorite writers, I guess, one of my favorite playwrights for sure. And I really like Ted Hughes as a poet. Like a lot of his stuff, I've read his collection Crow, which is just like amazing. And so yeah, like a little bit hesitant because, you know, like often modern poets, they don't adapt things so faithfully, I guess, but still like two artists that I really like combined in one like really pretty book. How could I say no to this? And also like I'm definitely gonna read a more, I guess, like what's the word? Not accurate, not really necessarily faithful, but like a less interpretative translation, I guess. I'm presuming this is kind of interpretive because it says like adapted. It is translated and adapted. And also in the dramatic personae, in the like the list of characters at the beginning, it has God. It had like as one of the characters. Instead, it has Apollo, but it also just has God, and like that sounds kind of not very ancient Greek. Just a character who, if it was a god, then maybe. But anyway, then I finally found it. I found the Japanese section, and I found The Silent Cry, which is what I had been looking for all along. It's quite a nice cover actually. I really like the last cover, which was red, and this is kind of strange, and it's blue. The Silent Cry by Kenzaburo Oe, another Nobel Prize winner. I hadn't talked about translators. Well, I just talked about Ted Hughes, but like I haven't mentioned translators for any of these. But I might put that in the bit downstairs, in the, you know, the underneath the video, maybe if I feel like it. But yeah, this is translated by John Bester. This book is about like I only realized what it was about when I was like 100 pages in, and then it was kind of engaging because it's very swampy, unpleasant kind of read in lots of ways, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but like, yeah, so these two brothers go back to their home village in Japan in like the 1960s, and they're like kind of, their family used to be like the leaders of the village, and there was like a revolt in the Meiji period or something, but yeah, like a sort of political revolutionary revolt, and now it's the 60s, it's like 100 years later, and there's like, you know, revolution is in the air again, and they've gone back to the old village, and they're sort of falling into the roles of their ancestors or challenging them and trying to see how they can resist falling into those roles and how they're not defined by, I don't know. It's really interesting once I realized what that sort of generational historical like revolution based or like revolution questioning sort of premise was, but it doesn't read like that. The beginning is just like this, one of the brothers being depressed for ages and talking about his son who is disabled, and like how difficult it is to have a disabled son who they put into a hospital and that they never see, him and his wife who's an alcoholic now, and yeah, it's just like really kind of a depressing personal story before it like starts to branch out into this bigger historical family saga kind of thing. I'm more into the family saga side of reading, I guess. So now it's gotten really interesting, but then I left it in Ireland. So now I can finally finish it, I hope. And then I'm on a separate trip to the back to Vancouver Public Library. I went back to that Japanese section because they were closing, so I didn't have time. I just like picked this up and ran out because I had to check it out before the doors closed. But I obviously want to see more Japanese translated literature, so I went back to that section and I found The Tower of London by Natsume Soseki, which I've heard of. Natsume Soseki is one of those writers I've really wanted to read for ages. The Tower of London is his experiences. Well, it's like a little novella, and this book is that novella plus I think all of his writings to do with his time in London. He was this professor who was supposed to get like an English literature post in Tokyo University, so they sent him to study in London for 2 years. He absolutely hated it. He said it was the worst time of his life, and he made these notes and records and wrote short fictions set in London during the time. And then after that, he went back to Japan and suddenly became like the national writer for the country. Like he just became like this amazing literary superstar, he's still considered the father of modern literature in Japan. So it's it makes you wonder what happened in London that kind of depressed him so much that he was forced out of his shabby teaching career into being like one of the world's great literature writers. I say one of the world's great. I've not read anything by him, but this is an unusual place to start. I think like most people read some of his big novels rather than his little kind of, I guess you'd call this juvenilia, like the stuff that he wrote before he became famous, and also like, I don't know. I was born in London. I'm excited to see what like his impression of it was, and also to see like how he represents London at the time, which was I guess the 1800s, right, or early 1900s. Also, the Tower of London has got kind of romantic-y vibes, doesn't it? And then I had to get out Territory of Light again because I had to return it last time. I showed you in the last video. I had it from one of the other libraries. This one is, I don't know if you can see, it's got these like dark stains down the front. Can you see that? Not really, right? Like these dark kind of like finger-like stains on the front, and then on the back it's got this red mark, which is like very looks like dried blood. So I am pretty sure that this book has been used as a murder weapon, and I'm not sure how I feel about that, but it's a great book, even though it's a bit dirty. At least this edition is. So I'm going to just buy this thing. I got to buy it because otherwise I have to keep returning it and taking it out again, because I'm reading a chapter every month until next April, I guess. So it's going to be a while till I finish that. So I got to buy it. But anyway, those are the books that I got from Vancouver Public Library, and I'm very happy to have them. I'm starting to sweat now, so this video is going to end. But if any of that was interesting, please let me know. I'm really, I don't know, I feel really good about this selection. There's something which I feel is just like kind of personal and kind of great. And I'm so glad I found the 6th floor of that like kind of spaceship-shaped library. But yeah, let me know how you're doing, what you're reading, and chat to you next time. Bye bye.